and particularly with how fast she was developing and enjoying the sport at the time. Obviously, in those early years, it was still about learning, still about enjoying, and still about discovering belief within herself. As long as we were encouraging her and I guess expressing to her that you're going to make mistakes, that you're going to lose, you're going to experience a lot of bad experiences of being but those experiences are not bad in a sense, because kids really like to have it all, like no one likes to lose, and particularly when you see your young one lose, we feel it too. So the term roller coaster is exactly what it is, when it comes to sport with kids. It doesn't matter whether it's tennis, football, cricket, rugby, any sport, basketball, it doesn't matter. You share the highs and the lows with them when you're just as passionate about sport as they are. And when you come from a sporting background, you kind of develop an understanding that they are feeling in themselves. But no, there was never really any fear about her in the sport, as long as we made it simplified for her to understand that how she can compete in it and find the enjoyment from it, and that's most of the nuts and bolts that happens outside the sporting arena, back in the gym, or as much as eating, recovery with sleep, attaining to good knowledge in her homework, so as to be able to decipher and be able to problem solve better on the court by having a smarter brain. All those attributes help to producing in my opinion a credible athlete, and again with what their preferred sport is, it goes a long way to assisting them. So obviously they need to have the dynamics and and a good physique, but again physiques are not developed right away. Coordinating skills, and again a culmination of being able to make it fun, and give them the powers to make decisions for themselves. That's always an enjoyment for young ones, moving forward into adult years.
Okay, so what would you say to a family that's right at the beginning of trying to find out what their child is good at, trying to walk the journey right from the beginning? What would you say in hindsight that you were at the other end?
I'd say to them, experiment. We went from swimming, taking her to swimming lessons, involved her in team sports. Soccer was prominent in our years because her mum being, playing at national level here in Australia and New Zealand. So involving her in many other ball activities or game activities that allowed for us to see, just what kind of, I guess, person she was, in terms of athleticism, and what was she going to do, be good at. Obviously, she had good reflexes. She was quite quick and strong, and I can remember she was quite determined. Didn't like to lose even in board games. So those sorts of things we go along hand in hand with an athlete. When you see players come off court, you don't often know that they're often good at other things like billiards. But for her, for parents, back to the question is, in those years you never know until you try your hand at everything, and it's really up to the kid at the end of the day is what they find I guess most enjoyable to them and what they have more luck at, and it's then about the parents reinforcing, well, maybe you continue on in this path, maybe there's something there, and again it comes down to the kid's confidence and whether or not they have a feel for it. And then I guess the other side of that is, friends, that they have, their circle of friends at school can, assist in keeping them in the sport. If there's others that, are involved in the sport, but, in those earlier years, I guess it's probably the experimental stages, because we didn't know that tennis was going to be her preferred sport. At the time, we were involved in a lot of team activities and team management and coaching of teams, throughout Victoria, and she just liked being in that environment where there was, a lot of people, a lot of activity, a lot of involvement, a lot of competition. So she thrived in that arena. When it came time, for her to be, center stage, she wanted to be center stage alone. So, and why we wrote a list one night, and she chose tennis. But for parents, again, it's the inevitable of trying to find that perfect sport, but you just never know. You could think they play basketball, but then find that they're better at swimming because of their being so tall and having a body that's capable of doing both. Or you could have a basketballer playing tennis maybe because again the height helps them with in both sport. Or you could have a rugby player but turn boxer, or a boxer turn soccer player. You never know. Again, at the end of the day, it's up to the child and what they feel comfortable in, what they have more success in, and again, it comes down to the parents' drive to assist them to having an overall decision making and support, because that's the key to having them follow through on what it is that your child decides to pursue. But when you have that support, as a family, then it becomes a collectively a bigger support, because then the immediate family and then the relatives and the friends and everyone else is behind it. It becomes a consistent following, and and it reinforces to galvanize just what it is that you're building, and it just snowballs into something. It's not to say that it's going to end up the perfect product. Sometimes you fall short, and there's many of those that in life and in the sport we know that fall by the wayside, because there is that fine line with that people often talk about, with burning them out too early, and then that comes down to be able to have the right people in place to psychologically speak with them to attain peace within, and to keep them level-headed and not to get too ahead of themselves, and that's parents included. To not get too ahead of themselves with living their vision through the kids. So it's a balancing act, but again, one that you will have to, I guess as a parent, bite the bullet. If you're wanting a footballer, if that's what you were, they may not necessarily be what it is that you want them to be, because at the end of the day, it's what they enjoy. If what it is happens to be a sport you have no knowledge of, you just got to run with it, because you never know.
Thank you very much, Mark. I think you pretty much answered everything. That was very good interview. Thank you very much. And obviously, if you just want to tell people briefly where Des is now, so because obviously we didn't mention that at the beginning, just how much she's achieved, because obviously she's at the end of the success journey now. So because with the parents I'm working with, we're talking about success path. So there's a beginning and there's a process, and then there's an end to the desired end to the journey. So if you just let us know where Des is now, what she's doing, what she's achieved, and how you feel about that.
Destiny, she's currently playing on the Pro Tour circuits, playing, just coming back from injury. So there's some of the parts, with playing, pro elite sport. Some of the pros and cons. You never know when you pick up injuries, and you never know when there are certain things. It's a continual growth, even at the top level. It's a continual learning, particularly when you're still a teenager. And it's still an ever-evolving quest, because she's now at that level where she's the young bull trying to break into the bigger paddocks, where the bigger bulls have been, there 10 plus years on her, and understanding that the process begins again with having to compete with the hardened veterans of the sport. For them, it's about holding their themselves, in the sport for still, and then the young ones trying to break into it, and moving forward, continuing to grow, and taking the sport to a level where she's breaking even with it. Still enjoying it. She's still heavily involved with giving back to the sport. By, I guess, when she ever gets into town, or she's with the Tennis Australia regatta, and running clinics for the kids and the young aspiring kids. So she's understanding now that she's a role model to a lot of aspiring young kids. So she's only too happy to help and assist, and give a pathway to other kids, that look up to her, and knowing that anything is possible if you put your mind to it, and anything is possible if you believe in it, and anything is possible if you continue to believe in it. You got to have the belief, you got to have the support, and you got to enjoy it, and abundantly. So she's excelling still. She's still, striving to be, that number one, that illustrious, breakthrough into holding her own in the senior ranks. Still a junior, but doing enough to be able to give her a life where she's able to now, play at a level where she can only continue to get better, and give back to the sport.
And how do you feel as a dad? Because obviously you had a driving force in you and Rosie. How does it feel to be where she is now?
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't ecstatic. I'm immensely proud. I still, get goosebumps whenever I, know of her, going into major events, particularly when she does well at certain events, whether it's first round knockout, or whether she gets through the second or third. Every tournament, to me, even the smaller tournaments, I always get nervous, but I don't show it. And but in terms of pride, there really isn't much that any other parent, wouldn't feel. It the levels, whether it be a junior level or pro level where she's at, I still get nervous, and I still get excited, and the pride of her winning her first junior tournament to, winning a round or winning a match at the pro level is pretty much the same, hasn't changed. And every chance I get to go watch her, that's my highlight for the day. So immensely proud.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, Mark. Obviously, that's wealth of knowledge for the parents that we're working with. Thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we can inspire some parents to go in the journey. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.